And we're back. And today we're discussing the brush tools in Adobe Illustrator. Now, if you followed our pencil tutorial, which you should check out definitely before you check this tutorial out, to see the older versions of how they actually govern the accuracy of the tool, check it out. It will show you that there were differences in earlier versions of Adobe Illustrator. In the most recent CC version, they've changed the options panel and you no longer have a fidelity and a smoothness. What you have now is just one single slider for fidelity, but there's an accurate end and there's a smoothness end. And you can see the differences between the two panels in the pencil tutorial. In this brush tutorial, we'll just note that it previously looked how it did in the pencil tutorial. But essentially you have two brush options. In your first column, if you were to go down to the fifth icon or the letter B on your keyboard, is the regular brush tool. And you'll notice right now I have a fill on this brush tool, but it switches to a stroke. And the reason why is because the brush tool works off of strokes. And if you highlight it, you can see that it has anchor points. It's a stroke. So if you were to double click your brush tool, you bring up your paintbrush tool options, and in these options you can again change this fidelity to be more accurate or more smooth. The more accurate it is, the more anchor points you'll get, the more accurate to the actual line you draw it will be. But if you do more smooth, it will guesstimate how your curves and angles of curves are going to be while you're working that brush. Now you can click to fill new brush strokes if you want it to have a fill, and it will take on the fill property that you select in your fill area. And then you can either keep it selected or you can edit the selected paths as long as they're within 12 pixels of where you start drawing. Okay, so these are the options in your paintbrush tool option. It's very similar to the pencil tool. When you're using this tool, you can still draw, and then you can hit your Alt key, and you'll notice when you hit your Alt key, a little circle appears right next to your paintbrush, and that allows you to automatically close it. So it makes it a closed path, as opposed to you trying to figure it out, even though when you get closer, it'll close the path. But if you're not that close and you want to just make sure that it closes properly, you hold that Alt key down, Option on the Mac, and it closes it for you. Now, what is the difference between this and the Blob brush tool? Well, as you can see, these are the paintbrush tool options for the regular paintbrush tool. However, for the Blob brush, you have many more options. It actually allows you to change the size of your brush to start. It allows you, again, similarly, to change the fidelity to more accurate or smooth, but you also get to change in these option boxes whether you want it to be fixed, to be randomized, and you can change the variation in the size. As you note in your panel window, you'll see how the brush sizes change, where the middle brush option is your standard size, but the right and the left show the variations of smaller and greater, and this will be randomized as you're drawing. You can choose to do it by pressure, your stylus wheel, the tilt of your pen tablet, bearing, and rotation, and they can all govern the variation of the actual brush. Same thing goes for the angle, and this will show which direction the angle is actually in, and you can change it to fixed, random, pressure, and if we were to change it to random, once again we can change the variation. If we were to work with roundness, right now it's a complete circle, but we can change that to be less round, and we can change that to also change, let's say we change it in accordance with our tilt, we can change the variation, and you'll notice that it flexes and changes as we manipulate this. So essentially, and you'll see the icon, how it has a different look for the brush tool, but note it's almost more calligraphy in nature, but very simple. Let's apply pressure just to take a look at how this might work if we were to set it to pressure for everything. So let's do this. Let's do more of our angles like this. and size. And let's change our variations all the way to almost the max amounts. And let's see. Okay, so judging by light pressure, this is what we're getting. Heavier pressure. And as we let off, you'll notice that it changes a little. So this allows you to specify things depending upon the pressure sensitivity that you set in the variation. You can also change it, and this will depend on the type of tablet you're using, if you're using pressure sensitivity. And the more sensitive your tablet is to the actual pressure, the more variation you can get as well. So those are the differences that you'll get in your brush tool. And similarly, you'll notice that now your brush tool is actually a fill. Although when you start drawing it, it's usually marked off as a stroke. But as soon as you select this, you'll notice that it's an actual fill. So that's another difference between that and the regular brush tool. Whereas this is complete fills, and the regular brush tool is a stroke. So that's the difference, and you'll notice that with these tools. And see, you could change it like that, and you'll notice what the differences are. Now, this is your regular brush, and this is your blob brush. Stroke based, fill based. Alright, so fairly simple. Just play around with them, get used to the options, and then when you get a chance, start implementing them in some of your work. Again, check out the pencil tutorial. Make sure you get familiar with that so that you know the difference between that and these brush tools, as well as the pen tool tutorials as well. So that way you'll get familiar with these tools, because these are your main drawing tools in the actual Illustrator platform. These are the ones you want to be familiar with so you can figure out which one works best with your style. Alright, so stay tuned. I got some more tutorials coming up, and we're going to start getting into more developmental tutorials, ones that explain how we begin drawing or developing certain content in Adobe Illustrator. Alright, how we put these tools to practical use as opposed to just how they function. So be on the lookout for those. There'll be a different color code than our classic orange and white, so you'll notice them, and they'll be more advanced, and then we'll get into harder stuff later on. So I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take it easy.